Hello, so my name's Paul Wood and we're at Cliff College trying to bring the Methodist Conference online for 2020. And we've been having to learn an awful lot in the last month in order to try and make this happen. Some people have asked, well, how is it actually going to physically work? And so we're going to show you a little video now that takes you behind the scenes so you can see what we're trying to do. So if you follow me, we're going to go through into reception and you'll see that the Cliff staff have worked really hard to make everything possible for us to work COVID-19 secure. All the places have been marked out for us. We're expected each time we come into the building to sanitize our hands. Indeed, every time we go into a different room, we're expected to do that. And you'll see that within the dining room, for those of you who've been here before, the tables are all set out 2 meters apart so that everybody can have their meals separated and safe in that way. When it comes to our meals, we go and collect them from the counter over there. They're all on individual trays, so nobody's having to come in contact with the staff, protecting them as well. And we sit at these different tables. It can feel like you're going to do a school exam, but we're trying to settle into it. So come this way, we're going to go through to what is production. For those of you who've been to the Methodist Conference before, you'll realise automatically that there are more people in production than we usually have. And that's because it's so complicated, the things that we're trying to do. We've got people on sound. Ryan's here over on sound, trying to make sure that you can hear what's happening in this space and that we can hear from the 300 and odd people all over the connection who might be wanting to speak to various pieces of business. Over here we've got Keith, who's doing all the vision mixing, making sure the things that come in and go out from the right cameras. Here we've got Russ, who's on control. Well, he tells me he's in control. He just keeps trying to keep us in control in that way. And you'll be pleased to see over here, for those of you who are very keen about counting, we've got Phil, who is our chief scrutineer. Every time there's a vote, whether it be a raised hand. Are you waving there, Phil? There we go. He's not trying much. Yeah, thank you. There we go. You can't hear him, and sometimes that's best. We've got him over there so that he can check the votes when they're raising the hand or when it goes through a poll vote. You'll notice that sometimes there's a pause in our business, and that's because he's having to make sure that everybody's had opportunity to raise their hands in that way. When we get along over here to Joe, he's got all the visuals, all the video visuals that we're using. There are a number of pieces of business that have been pre-recorded. The reason we've done that is if there are any problems with the Zoom, it allows us at least to start the business, and then we can invite other people to come and speak to that and responses to be made afterwards. Dave over here, who is one of our conference veterans and is trying to keep us all in order, really, is showing us all the bits that come through PowerPoint. But also, if you're a speaker, if you've asked to speak, he puts your name up on the screen next door. We'll show you in a moment in the studio so that the president or vice president can call you to the tribune. Over here is Matt, and he's got the unenviable job, really, of trying to work Zoom. And Zoom is a real challenge for us when you're thinking that there's over 300 people who are trying to come into the conference call. He's having to monitor that to see if you're raising your hand, if you've decided that you don't want to speak and you've lowered your hand, etc., etc. So what we would say to you is, if you think you're going to speak to a piece of business, get your hand up early. It really makes Matt's life better for him. And then here's Ali, who's looking as though he's all calm and in control, but when the business is really going, he's the one who's sort of making sure that everybody's got onto different things and running that way. And speaking into my ear nearly all the time about what should be going on next door. We're going to travel through, and as you can see, as we come through this bit is normally just for the technicians only, and here would be a corridor that gets us through safely into our studio area. And this is the bit, the holding area really, in this area where the president and vice president will meet for prayer before they go into the sessions, and where we gather in that way. We're going to move into the studio now, and we'll look at the different bits like that. And I think we're going to have great joy, because I might have managed to catch Jane Bates, who never lets herself be on camera ever, but here she is. And Jane, of course, has done loads of the work behind the scenes to make sure that the business is ready for us. She's sat there, so she's direct line and got her eye on the top table on all of us in the background as well, when we're trying to put through the business. So if I show you then here, as we go into this is what we've set up as a studio. It's like the front part of the conference hall would normally be, but very strange because we haven't got the hundreds of people before us. So down this sort of what we might describe as a rat run as we're going up and down here is a walkway that allows people to get to the tribune. The only people that will actually speak at the Tribune this year are anybody who's bringing anything to do with the legal or law and polity. We have our Law and Polity officer here, from which will be Elizabeth Ovey, who comes from the Law and Polity Committee, and she comes as our advisor in that way. And then our new Officer for Constitution and Legal Practice will sit here, Joanne, and they're both there to help the Secretariat and to make sure that our business is all in order. And this sort of mess over there, we can wander away from that because that's where I've just dumped all my stuff. Over here, this is where you find me. I don't really know if I've got a title. It's about a job of, I think, jack of all trades. But the whole idea is that I'm listening to what you're saying at home. I'm listening to what's happening on the desk there. And I'm listening to all the technicians when they're telling me whether a Zoom call has come in or has gone out. And I'm communicating all the time with the President, Vice President, and the Secretariat. I'm hoping that you'll never hear me on camera. But if you do, that's when it's gone slightly wrong. So we're just going to cut through here to show you what it's like on set. So here you'll see this is how we've set out the conference business area in order to keep it COVID compliant. You'll see that unlike the normal conference where the president sits in Wesley's chair and then the vice president alternates, here we've set it up so that each person has their own desk and they will remain for the whole of the conference. And so the president sits in this seat and the vice president over there, and next to them the Secretariat, the Secretary of Conference and the Assistant Secretary of Conference. And they will operate and they look directly at cameras that are in front of them. They're given an idea where they should be looking. We have a chance to put some wide angles in just to show you what's happening in that way. And on the screen, they can see what's happening from the cameras. They also see the names if you've asked for your name to be put forward for a piece of business. And they can select who they're calling in that way. And they see before them also a timer for how long you have been speaking. So if you start to get cut off, you'll understand why. You'll see before you as well, there's little bits of furniture because we do have to do some set changes for the reception into full connection and for the induction of the President and Vice President. But virtually, that's it. This is all we have. There are probably more technicians on site than there are Secretariat, and that's because of trying to get the technology to work. This is a first that we've ever tried to do before, and we really are hoping and praying that you will be gracious with us and praying for us at this time. We will continue to pray for you. It does not feel the same sort of conference. In fact, I'm sure it's not the same sort of conference, but we know that best of all is God is with us, and we give thanks to him for his mercy.